close your eyes and pull like a dog.
And a new Irish record for Phil Healy, 22.99.
Christy Cooney hands over the Sam Maguire Cup to Graham Canty, Cork All-Ireland champions for the 7th time ever.
Hello and welcome to episode 13 of the Star Sport podcast. I'm Jack McCarran of the Southern Star, and as always I'm joined by Star Sport editor Kieran McCarthy. On today's show we'll be joined by Cork captain and goalkeeper Martina O'Brien following their impressive win over Galway in Sunday's Little Ireland Ladies League final.
We'll also chat to Denis Hurley about John Caulfield's departure from Cork City, what it means for the club and John going forward.
Well, Kieran, there's only one place to start today's show, and that's at Parnell Park, where Cork were crowned league champions for the 12th time on Sunday, beating Galway by a scoreline of 112 to 2-7. What did you make of the game and the result, Kieran?
Fantastic result, I'd say, to start off with for Cork. To win the league title, look back at this campaign, it started off with 2 defeats in the first 3 games, but since then this team has grown and developed, and they're finishing the league in a far stronger and healthier position than when they started. And I suppose for any management, that's a great place to be. In their last 3 games, not only did they beat Galway in the league final last Sunday, and Galway were the form team in the National League, but before that they beat All-Ireland champions Dublin in an epic semi-final that went to extra time, and the game before that they also beat Dublin in the league. So they finished the league on a real high, and it really sets them up for the Munster Championship that starts later this month. Orla Finn, no surprise, player of the match. I think we are her good luck charm. She was on this podcast last week. Great to see Martina O'Brien, captain, saved a penalty in early in the second half. Very important.
It proved crucial considering the final score.
Really did, kind of fantastic. It was even though Martina is fairly modest and she says the ball hit her as opposed to her saving it, it's still like she did her job. She stopped the ball going into the net. So
it's unusual for a goalkeeper to display such modesty. Usually keepers like to have it all about them, and every little touch or save they do, whether it be accidental or not, they'll tend to claim it. So good to hear from Martina there, a bit of honesty.
Martina's breaking the mold a small bit. She's redefining how a goalkeeper, I suppose, talks about themselves, which is good. So no, but in all seriousness, great result for Cork. Like, kind of, it really sets them up now this year for a serious kind of I suppose assault on the All Ireland title. It's not forgetting that last year Cork did get to the All Ireland final. They lost to a very, very good Dublin team, and Dublin will be favourites going into this All Ireland series again. But what it means is Cork are in a good place. They have a very, very strong panel. They're finishing the league in a very, very good position. So it's kind of it's positive at the moment, Jack, and it's a good place for Cork Ladies football team to be. And it's worth noting too that Cork Ladies have enjoyed a clean sweep at Munster level. I think under 14, under 16s, and the minors beat Kerry on Bank Holiday Monday, just gone in the Munster final. So it's been a fantastic couple of weeks for Cork Ladies football. And as well as the senior team is going now, and they're going well, the future looks very, very bright.
Okay then, well, let's hear from Martina O'Brien now. Kieran spoke to her a little earlier on.
Congratulations, Martina, fantastic stuff. What a win, and your penalty save in the second half obviously played a part in it. Can you tell me a small bit about
that? Yeah, thanks. I suppose we had a very good win now. I suppose going into the game, we were, we certainly weren't favourites. Galway had given us a good game, a good hiding, I suppose, in the first game. We played them in the league, and all the talk, I suppose, was about us beating Dublin in the semi-final. So there was a bit of hype around that as well. And I suppose going into it, we wanted to just kind of calm all that down and go, look. What we wanted out of the league really was to build a team, and I suppose just gel together a bit more, because that hadn't happened, I suppose, at the start of the year. And look, we came out with the win in the end, which was obviously brilliant. But it was a real bonus, I suppose, to come out beating Galway.
Like you said there, let's rewind to the start of the league for a moment. I think Cork lost 2 of their first 3 league games, but since then, you've been on a phenomenal run. And to finish in the high that you have, beating Dublin twice in the group stage and the semi-final, and then beating Galway, who are the form team in the National League, you must be pretty high in confidence after that, Martina.
yeah, look, we lost our first game in the league. We met Westmeath and I suppose we were lucky enough we put in a better performance than we did the first day, and we got over them, and I think that gave us a little confidence. But I suppose what was the real kicker for us was the Tipperary game. Look, it was our first day playing. You know, there was a lot around playing in a double header and a Parky Ring and all this kind of stuff. So we were all, you know, it was an exciting day for us. But then to come out losing that, it was really kind of go, right, we probably have to get ourselves together now here a bit better. That really kind of gave us a kick on, I think, to work harder for the rest of the league, and training kind of upped a bit. Just personally ourselves, all the girls went away, I think, and we were like, right, look, we can't be putting in performances like that, losing when we're up 8 points, and to lose by a point in the end, like it was pretty devastating, I suppose. So we were lucky to learn those lessons early on, and then we had time to kind of get ourselves together. We actually won the rest of our games, which was very positive. I think that has kind of just gave us the confidence, really, going into the Dublin game. Look, we'd beaten Dublin previous to that, 2 weeks previous or something. So we weren't getting carried away, but we certainly, it did give us a bit of confidence. So I suppose that was a big game for us, the Dublin game. And once we got over that, we kind of grew more in confidence, I suppose, more than anything, and believed that, look, we have a serious side here now. We have a really good panel. And like what management have been doing with us, like since last year even, you know, they've put an awful lot of time into us, and they can't give us any more. Do you know what I mean? I mean, they're giving us everything, and we're finally kind of, I suppose, using that and making ourselves better and gelling as a team better.
You just mentioned there the panel, Martina, and I was talking to James Masters, the Cork selector, last week, and he made a point of saying that he thinks this panel now was the most competitive panel he's seen in Cork since he's been involved, and that goes back to 2016. Even if you look at some of the younger guns, the two Kylie twins from Valley Rovers, Emer and Dara, I think they both played in all 9 games. Laura O'Mahony from Donovan Rossa has featured in a lot of games. Even Claire O'Shea there from Beara, she started the last 3 games and was a sub before that. And you've Cyber Larry from Kinsale. That's just 5 kind of, let's say, local West Cork players as an example. So when you put that strength and depth, when you add those players, to the panel, Martina, there's a huge strength and depth there that you have now that you probably didn't have last season.
Yeah, definitely. And like, I suppose there was a few of those girls involved last year. Like, they just came onto the senior panel from minor. So like the 2 Kylies, Sive, like you, Saoirse Noonan there. Mm-hmm. There's a few more there that came from minor. I suppose it did take a year, a year just to kind of get used to the setup, get used to what, like, I suppose, realizing what you need to do to make that step. Strength conditioning wise as well, I suppose we just needed that little bit more, and it's really shown, like, in fairness to management, like and I suppose all credit has to go to the underage structures in Cork as well. Like, John Cleary's done massive work minors over the last couple of years, and it really it bears fruit for us, at senior level. Then all those girls are doing so well, like, and they really are keeping it really competitive training because they're young, they're fit, they're hungry. Now, they may have won stuff underage, but, like, when you get to senior, I suppose it is a bit different. So they're hungry. They want to be playing. They're really, really competitive, which drives the rest of us on then as well. You need that competitive environment to really drive it on. And they have done that. And, like, especially for the West Cork contingent, like, it's massive. There's, I'd say, maybe, is there 10 of us on the whole panel all together? Like, so that, I think that's great. Like, they're, I suppose, previous to 3-4 years ago, there had only been 2 to 3 on a Cork senior panel. So it is massive for West Cork, and, like, you kind of have to look at the West Cork set up there with the, the divisional side has done massive work with, I suppose, getting girls seen. Like the likes of Melissa there would never probably have might not have played with Cork if she wasn't seen playing for West Cork. So massive work has gone in there, and they have to get a lot of plaudits for that as well. But no, it has been very, very positive, and we've all gelled in together really well. You think having such a maybe older group and such a younger group that it might be hard to gel it, but really everyone just gets on, and we do have a good laugh, which helps.
I think this is your 7th season at senior level, and you picked up your 6th league medal on Sunday. But for those younger players and the development of this team, how important was it to win against Galway last Sunday, Martina?
I suppose it can't be understated, really. Like, I know maybe there was a lot of our talk going into it saying, look, if we didn't win, sure, what about it? Or it wouldn't be a big deal if we didn't. But it you want to build confidence and you want to build hunger, I suppose. When you win, you get hungrier. You're like, geez, that was great, wasn't it? It's the feeling of winning, I suppose. You want people to taste it and then want more and more. Now, obviously, if losing, you kind of can gain positives from that as well. But I think winning for us anyway was a big thing, and a lot of girls wouldn't have had like any success at senior level. This would be the first real big trophy. So it was really important, and just basically, I think for confidence going forward, and just in ourselves that we're like, right, okay, now we can play it. We're big time players now. That we can maybe shake up the championship again. Even hopefully, if we could make it to Croke Park and go that one step further this year, that we know we have it in us now. And I suppose that it comes back to that confidence thing that has helped us now. So Sunday's win was big for that.
I suppose, like, looking ahead to the championship, like the Munster Championships just around the corner, and then obviously the All-Ireland series is coming very, very soon this summer. Is this the perfect launch pad, Martina, to launch a real serious All-Ireland bid? Because let's not forget too, the Cork were All-Ireland finalists last year and lost to kind of a really good Dublin team. So considering where you were last year and how you've developed so much through the league this year, and now you've won a league title, are you primed now for a serious bid at the All-Ireland?
Well, you'd like to think so, but I suppose we can't really get ahead of ourselves either. Just looking forward to even Munster Championship now, like you see Waterford and Kerry there in the Division 2 final. Like, now, a lot of people would have probably tipped Kerry to win, which I would have myself, because they would have had more senior experience, but Waterford blew them out of the water. Like, they were unbelievable. So we have, we really have to knuckle down now, not forget about the league, but park it and move on. And like, we have bigger things to work towards now, and I suppose Munster is our next thing. Like, we have to be extremely disciplined and really well organised, and like, we can't underestimate any challenge that comes against us, I suppose. Like, I think Waterford's actually our first match, so like, nothing's going to come easy from now on, so we're going to have to probably, like, we did a good bit of hard training there for the league, and it was great to win it, but like, we really have to knuckle down now and really, probably look after yourself a bit more and even train really, like, harder. So but like, look, the lads, the management are really good at kind of sitting us down and like telling us that don't get carried away with yourselves now, like, so at least we had that, and we all know where we want to be at the end of the year, but we all know how hard it is to get there. So I suppose coming off the back of last year, we have that kind of experience. We know how hard we have to work. So we're hopefully going to put in that bit extra this year and go all the way.
Before I let you go, and you neatly sidestepped the question earlier, and you were very humble, I saw, after the final on Sunday. But your penalty save in the second half, I saw some interview where you said the ball hit you rather than you saved it, but it was still a very crucial moment, Martina. Kind of, when it comes to penalties, have you any sort of procedure yourself, or do you just wait to see which way the kicker goes, or what's your, when it comes to kind of staring down?
I suppose we're lucky enough the last day there was a bit of a time lapse before she got to take the penalty as well. I'd say there was about maybe a minute or 2 minutes. So like, you could see you're getting a little bit nervous. Obviously as a penalty taker, and I know the girls said this afterwards, they were like, Jesus, I'd love to just get down and just take it straight away instead of having to think about it. Whereas a goalie, you probably have, you're not expected to save it really. Like, so having that extra bit of time to kind of maybe try put them off is good. But look, I said it Sunday as well, it's not the best penalty Roisin has ever taken, I think, and she'll look back and go, Jesus, I really gave her an easier one than I should have. But it's just, I suppose, you just have to kind of see which way they shape up. That's how I do it anyway. I kind of wait, see which way they might shape up, whether they step left or right, what leg they kick off then, and it is kind of hope for the best, like, really. Guess aside maybe sometimes, like, it's not a science really that we have down, but look, it came off the last day. It was great that it didn't go in, because like, it really, I suppose, when you look back, if they had got that, it could have kicked them on, whereas it actually turned it around and we got ourselves together and kind of were like, right, if we don't take this game, it's going to be taken from us. So it was good that way. And like, I think you get those things in games, it'll either go for you or go against you. The next day it might not go for us. So look, we were just happy it did. And look, anytime you save a ball or a penalty even, it is a good day, I suppose.
final question from me, Martina. You were obviously captain on Sunday. What a fantastic honour! Like, you've achieved so much already with Cork over the years, but to captain a team that wins a league final, you walked those steps, you picked up the cup, you represented the team. For you personally, that must be a fantastic honour.
Yeah, it was and I know it was a bit of a shock that I had to walk up the steps. Now I thought Darren was going to accept the cup and make the speech, but she was like, no, up you go. So look, it is an absolute honour. Like, I mean, being with Cork for a couple, 7 years or whatever, like that, I find that is a massive honour in itself, to put on the jersey every day, to be able to train with the high quality of players that we have in Cork, and just to be involved. But yeah, definitely, representing the girls on Sunday was a dream come true, really, I suppose. And they're such a good bunch of girls that it was really my honour to do it. And look, that's another thing ticked off, I suppose. Getting to lift a cup for Cork is something you always dream of, and I'm glad I could do it.
Yeah, so Martina, come here. Thank you so much for joining us, and best of luck for the season ahead.
Thanks very much.
Thank you for listening to the Star Sports Podcast. Don't forget to pick up this week's Southern Star, featuring our award-winning sports section that has everything a sports fan in West Cork could want. Available every Thursday in shops across West Cork and online from anywhere in the world. The Southern Star, #1 for sport in West Cork.
Towards the middle of last week, long-serving Cork City manager John Caulfield departed his role following a string of bad results. Caulfield had widely been credited with rejuvenating even the fortunes of his beloved club in recent years, including the famous League and Cup double in 2017. Kieran, this was somewhat of a surprising move given all their recent success in the league, in the cup, 4 cup finals, etc. Were you surprised he wasn't given more time to turn it around?
Even though it was probably mooted a small bit, there was grumblings. Obviously, Cork City weren't going well, and there was a certain kind of sections of the support weren't too happy with what was going on. But John was at the press conference on the Tuesday, and he was talking about turning it around. Yet by the Wednesday morning, he was gone. So it was a surprise in that sense that the day before that by mutual agreement that he decided to walk away, he was still talking about that he was the right man to turn Cork City around. It is surprising, but it's in one sense, but not in the other sense, Jack. I suppose the way football is now, it's a results business. Cork City were struggling; they were third bottom of the table. Attendance figures were down, so that probably had an impact on the decision. But when you consider the 5 seasons before that, what John Caulfield did for Cork City, I wrote about it last week. But he made them relevant again. He made them a force again. He made Cork City were a club and a team to be reckoned with. If it wasn't for Dundalk, you could just imagine how much the national media would have glorified John and hyped him up, because he's such a good manager. In his 5 years, Cork City didn't finish outside the top 2 in the league in those 5 years. That's a phenomenal achievement. He did so much for that club, but unfortunately that decision was taken, that they felt that now was a time to make a change, to to stop the rot, you could say, in some sense, because things were going so bad. They were out of winning in 8 games. So it's sad to see it in that note, but it hopefully, and it shouldn't affect his legacy. What John has done for Cork City over the years. And earlier I spoke to Denis Hurley about what lies ahead for both Cork City and John Caulfield. I'm joined now by Denis Hurley, who's a well-known sports journalist, obviously here in Cork, but also very well known for his Cork City coverage. Denis, it's almost a week now since the news broke that John Caulfield was leaving as manager of Cork City. To start off with, were you surprised when the news broke last Wednesday morning?
I wouldn't say I was very surprised, because there had been growing speculation. I suppose it's only natural when you go 8 games without a win that's something that will grow. So there was a press conference last Tuesday, and John was asked about his future and if he felt under any pressure and if the job was in danger. And at the time, he was still fairly bullish and confident that he would be able to turn things around and be given a chance to turn things around. But there was a board meeting that night, and that was the decision taken then. So it had been mooted. So it wasn't a massive surprise in that regard. But there was still a sense that, given that he had been so confident the day before, you were kind of given the impression that it wouldn't be happening yet. But obviously, it was something that was out of his control.
So when you look at the table, I suppose when Cork City made that decision, they were Cork City third from bottom. Like you said, there are no win in 8. I think was it only 3 league wins all season up to that date, and they were over 20 points off the leaders. So the situation didn't look great from Cork City's point of view. But when you consider what John Caulfield did for the previous 5 seasons, he didn't finish outside the top 2 in the league. Won it 2 years ago. Won the FAI Cup twice, I think. When you look at his track record as Cork City manager and how he made the club relevant again, and he made them a force in Irish soccer, do you think he should have been afforded the chance, Denis, to try and turn this around? Because this is the first proper slump in his managerial career in charge of Cork, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It was kind of the case that 2 or 3 bad months were outweighing 5 good years, and like you say, never finishing outside the top 2 and winning the league and winning the FAI Cup once. And there hadn't been a slump like this. You're right. I suppose football clubs nowadays are governed by the bottom line in a lot of sense, and the attendance figures, and there had been a notable drop in that regard this season. John's style, I suppose, would always have come in for criticism in certain quarters, but when you're winning and doing well, something like that can be overlooked. But I think when results weren't going well and there was a perception that they weren't going to improve, the criticisms will only grow louder. The crowd for the Harps game last Monday week, what turned out to be his final game, wasn't, I think it was just around the 2,000 mark, whereas City would have been budgeting for 3,500 to 4,000 per home game this year. And ultimately, something like that is going to have the final say. It's something similar even with Arsenal last year when they decided to get rid of Arsene Wenger. It was because there had been a drop-off in attendances like that ultimately the fans and their presence or absence will be the deciding factor. It's harsh on John, definitely, because he has done so much for the club. You'd have liked for him to be able to go at a time of his own choosing. I think maybe he might have even gone at the end of the season if he'd been given the decision as to when to go, that he'd have liked to help transition towards a new team like he was trying to do. But there's no room for sentiment in this, unfortunately. You'd probably look back on 2 games in the space of 4 days there in the middle of April. They were leading against St. Pat's going to the 98th minute. Pat's equalised, that finished 1-1. And then 4 days later, away to UCD, leading after 85 minutes and conceded twice to lose. So you're taking 1 point from those 2 games, whereas it wouldn't have taken too much for it to have been 6 points. City would have been up around 4th in the table, and this slump mightn't have developed. But when things are going against you, they really do go against you. And it seems like no matter what you do, you're not able to turn it around. It's like, you're pushing against a brick wall and it won't budge, and it must be very frustrating to be in that position.
It could be too easy to kind of attribute one of the reasons to this for City's budget being kind of cut by, it was up to 300,000, a decision taken I think last October. Do you think that had an effect in this, and the fact that John Caulfield couldn't get in the players that he wanted to? Because you wrote for the Southern Star a couple of weeks ago about even the lack of goals in the Cork City team, kind of when Seanie Maguire left, and even last year, I can't think of the fellow now, sorry, who left, but
Kieran Sadlier.
Sorry, yeah. Do you think like those players were replaced, or do you think is it just too easy an excuse to say, well, Jesus, the budget wasn't what it was, so he didn't get into players, so that kind of contributed to the current situation? Or
well, yeah, the City chairman Declan Carey was on the radio at the weekend on Red FM, and he was making the point that the budget reduction hadn't been that drastic. So I think those figures would probably come out in due course at the AGM of Forest, the supporters trust that runs the club. But John did say himself that there were 4 guys he was looking to, that he approached, and that all 4 of them decided to go elsewhere, that a City couldn't match the money being offered. You might make the case that maybe he should have gone for quality rather than quantity. That City had a fairly big squad, but probably a lot of players around the same level and nobody really to set himself apart and get the 15 or 20 goals that you do need to be up challenging around the top of the table. And even last Friday, obviously they won 1-0, and it was good to get a clean sheet, a very disciplined defensive performance, but the goal was still by Conor McCarthy, a centre-back, from a set piece. So that's not a problem that's going to be sorting itself out overnight, and it's definitely something that John Cotter will have to be looking at as time goes on. I think City, as a club, too often in the past have flown too close to the sun and ended up being burnt. And there's definitely a prudence there among the people in charge, which is on the whole a good thing. And that prudence has even been there over the last 5 years, and John was able to work within those structures. So I to be honest, I don't know the exact ins and outs as to how much of an effect it has had on the ability to buy players. We can only take what's being said at face value. He was looking to get 4 players, or he looked for 4 different players, probably in succession, when one would reject and he'd go on to the next guy, and none of those 4 are with City now. And there probably is a lack of quality in the attacking division.
When you look at John Caulfield, he's died in the world Cork City legend, kind of top scorer, top appearances, all the records he holds. What's the legacy he leaves with Cork City now, Denis? Like we said there, it's such a successful reign as manager up to this season. Like, what's his legacy with the club, and how?
Well, it's massive. He was a legend as a player ever before he became manager, and I don't think any Cork club has ever finished in the top 2 5 years running. And he won the league. He's the first man to win the league with the club as a player and a manager. Won 2 FAI Cups, and City had only ever won 3 before that. Got to 4 finals in a row. Probably the presence of Dundalk and the fact that they're so good maybe means that John hasn't got the credit he deserves for what he's done, because City's achievements are being looked at in comparison to Dundalk. But I think in the fullness of time, he will certainly be regarded as one of the club's best managers. You look at the bare figures, and they're there, and those achievements can't be taken away from right now. Obviously there's a section of fans in every club who'll complain no matter what's happening, and there were loud critics of John when the results started to go the way they did. But things like that are always only temporary, and definitely when his reign is looked at as a whole, you can't but give him credit for what he has done.
Do you think we could see John Caulfield back as a manager of another League of Ireland team, considering how much of a City legend he is? Could you envisage him in charge of another club, Denis?
I'd be very surprised. You can never rule anything out, but going on what he has said in the past, that he said he could go to any club and just deal with the first team side of things, but he enjoyed the fact that he had an involvement in every aspect of the club, and I'm not sure how much it would appeal to him to go somewhere else and just be effectively a first team coach, or a manager, and just dealing with that. Maybe it might, and he could surprise us all, but I don't think that the League of Ireland is such as it is. City are so far away from everyone else that if he did go anywhere else, it would mean kind of upping sticks, and I think he's happy where he is, living in West Cork. I interviewed him at the end of last season, and he was saying how his contract was up at the end of this season, but he didn't know what the future held after that. But it didn't worry him either. He said if he was in his 30s or whatever, he might kind of be lying awake at night wondering what would happen, but he was happy enough in himself that he knew something would turn up, and I've no doubt it will. We could see him in a variety of different roles, probably sport related, but maybe not fully involved in sport. I think there's plenty of opportunities for him. It could be something with the FAI, or he's been involved with UCC in the past, and there might be something there. Definitely, I would expect him to stay involved in sport in some capacity, but I'd be surprised if he was managing anyone else.
Thank you for listening to the Star Sports Podcast. Don't forget to pick up this week's Southern Star, featuring our award-winning sports section that has everything a sports fan in West Cork could want. Available every Thursday in shops across West Cork and online from anywhere in the world. The Southern Star, #1 for sport in West Cork.
Welcome back to the Star Sport Podcast. And Kieran, it was an extremely busy bank holiday weekend of sport across the county and West Cork, including some big senior football action. So I have a feeling this week's sports section is going to be pretty strong.
It's, I'm a very modest man, Jack, but this is a really good sports section again this week. 24 pages of the best local sports coverage. Of course, the Cork ladies will headline this week's sports section after their fantastic league final win, and considering there's so many West Cork players involved in the county team, it makes it even extra special for us down here. O'Donovan Rassa had a huge win against Ballincollig in the first round of the Senior Football Championship. Super stuff for Skib. That's 2 wins in a row now. They'd beaten Carrigaline in the preliminary round a couple of weeks back, so we have full coverage of that. Also, in West Cork soccer, this Sunday there's a playoff for the Premier Division title between Ballydehob and Dunmanway Town. Both teams finished level in points at the end of the league campaign, so they meet in Skibbereen this weekend to decide who will win the league title. And we have an interview with the Ballydehob manager, Mike Helen, who talks about, I suppose, the importance of this for Ballydehob. It's the one title they've never won, so it's they're really honing in on this. Lots of local G action was on the weekend in the Carberry Championships as well as the County Championships. The Cork Miners in action against Kerry. So there's a load there, so it's definitely worth picking up the Southern Star this Thursday. You will not regret it.
And as always, if you can't get to the shops, you can purchase the Southern Star online, www.southernstar.ie/e-paper, and you can enjoy the Southern Star for less than €2 per week.
Anyway, thanks for listening to this week's Star Sport Podcast. We'll be back at the same time next week. So if you enjoyed these shows, please make sure to rate, review and subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, wherever you listen to the show. Thanks very much, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Star Sports Podcast. Don't forget to pick up this week's Southern Star, featuring our award-winning sports section that has everything a sports fan in West Cork could want. Available every Thursday in shops across West Cork and online from anywhere in the world. The Southern Star, #1 for sport in West Cork.